Good morning, class. Today we'll be learning about Melmetal in the Master League. So grab a seat and get ready for the notes because it's time for a lesson. Just a quick reminder, if you want a better grade in class, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to see what I do a week in advance, check me out on twitch.tv/Super Science Sensei. See you there. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at one of my favorite Pokemons inside the Master League. We are going to be looking at Melmetal. Now, before we push forward, let's look at what Melmetal looks like by clicking on to the rankings. We'll be clicking for Master League since Master League is going to come up soon. And we are going to be looking at Melmetal. Okay. Now, Melmetal is ranked 6 on the list for Master League, right? It has some pretty good matchups, and we know that inside this recent season, they have added on two new dragons, Zekrom and Reshiram, who both have a. Some of them hurt Melmetal really bad, like Wild Charge can hit Melmetal really, really bad. Um, Reshiram does have Overheat, so it can possibly one-shot the Melmetal. And obviously, we have the new addition of the Fire Punch Groudon, which could cause trouble to Melmetal. So, with all that said, is Melmetal worth using? Is Melmetal still viable in Master League? Is it going to be a great mon? Well, we're going to look at that inside today's video. So, we're going to break down A, the archetype, B, what moves it should have, what role it can be, what things you could substitute it for, what matchups it does well in that are key and important, and what it gets countered by. So, first, archetype. So, Melmetal, if you guys look at the different parts here, it says lead, closer, switch, charger, and attacker. Now, um, you notice that the highest rating is a lead. Now, I don't consider lead to be always a great archetype, but what I will tell you is that as far as Melmetal is concerned, Melmetal is a ninja. Okay, the archetype for Melmetal is ninja. Now, what the heck do I mean by ninja archetype? Now, before we go fully into the idea of Melmetal, I want you guys to note that Melmetal is one of those few mons that can be used inside all three leagues. We're going to go into Melmetal inside Great League and Ultra League in the future, but for right now, in Master League, Melmetal has a good amount of bulk, hits really hard, and hits really, really fast. Now, the reason why we say it's a ninja is because if you want to use Melmetal as best and efficiently as possible, you are going to be using Melmetal to weave in and out of the battle. It's going to come in, it's going to hit, it's going to run. It's going to come in, it's going to hit, it's going to run. It has to be quick, it has to be fast, it has to be a ninja. Okay? Now, what allows Melmetal to be this ninja archetype? The moves. So let's look at what moves Melmetal has. So we're going to hit the Battle tab, Master League. We get to our boy Melmetal. And now, if we look at Melmetal, it has these moves as suggested. The only fast move Melmetal has is Thundershock. And luckily for Melmetal, Thundershock is one of the best fast moves in the game. Shock is a clone of some other moves like Mudshot and stuff like that, but more importantly, it gains a very high amount of energy, even though the damage is very mediocre. If you guys look at Melmetal, let's say, it doesn't matter what we go up against, so we'll just put up against another Melmetal, right? Thundershock gives you 9 energy per usage, which is very good considering it is a very, very, very fast attack. If you guys want to look at numbers, whenever you guys are trying to use PvPoke, you guys can just look at moves. They have a fast move, charge move, situation. You guys can organize it by type, or the name, or the damage, or the energy, or the damage per turn, or the energy per turn. Lots of different things you can do. If you look at energy per turn, look at this. Lock On is the #1 energy per turn move, and Thundershock is tied with Mudshot and Cycle Cut because they are all the same clones of the same move, all 3 of them. Gets 4.5 energy per turn. It is the second fastest energy gain per turn, which allows Melmetal to be very, very quick. Now, beyond that, we can look at the moves that it can gain. So there's Flash Cannon, Hyper Beam, and Thunderbolt, which we're not going to be using. So there's Flash Cannon, there's Hyper Beam, and there's Thunderbolt that can be made. But we're not going to be using those moves. And here's why we're not going to use the moves. Even though we gain energy very quickly, Hyper Beam costs way too much and we don't get stabbed. Flash Cannon, though we don't get stabbed, that we do get stabbed, it does not do enough damage and is not fast enough for the Master League meta. And Thunderbolt, even though it is a solid move and it doesn't cost too much, it gets outclassed by Rock Slide because Rock Slide costs less energy and usually has the same coverage as Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is generally used to hurt flying types, and Rock Slide can hit flying types for super effective, and it also has the bonus effect of doing bonus damage to fire types. So we are going to use on it are going to be Rock Slide and Superpower. Okay, now these are going to be the best moves for the Melmetal inside Master League. Okay, now, inside other leagues, I know sometimes you guys can use things like Thunderbolt if you want to beat like a Zoomer or something like that for Great League. But in general, these are going to be the best moves for Melmetal in almost every league, especially the Master League. Rock Slide lets you hit things that are super effective, like Togekiss and Dragonite. Superpower allows you to crush your way through other steals. So I'm just going to call RS and SP. Okay. So let's look at these. Superpower only costs 40 energy. Rock Slide costs 45 energy. But one key thing to note is because we are gaining energy at 9 per attack, after 5 attacks, both Rock Slide and Superpower will have the exact same loading, right? They both load at 5 energy for the first move. So you can't tell what move it's going to use against you based off the first attack. So this allows you to bait people if you want to with Superpower or with Rock Slide. Okay, not only that, because Superpower only costs 40 energy, it's going to allow us to build up to 2 Superpowers, right? So when you have 9 Thunder Shocks, you'll build up to 2 Superpowers, and you can throw 2 Superpowers on an opponent back to back. Now, this is going to be really key and important to help you crush your opponents. And you notice right here, they both go for a bait. After that, they both build up to 2 superpowers, and then they proceed to double superpower each other to kill each other off inside this type of matchup. Make sure you guys understand how important Melmetal's moves are. Rock damage is amazing. It gives you coverage against some dragons. It gives you coverage against flying types. It gives you coverage against neutral matchups where Rock Slide will just hit Giratinas for a solid amount of damage. While Superpower, on the other hand, hits steals for super effective and is key to beating Dialga, one of the scariest mons in the Master League meta. Now, so let's look at our role. The role for Melmetal, I would say the best position overall it can be is going to be the lead, but it can also just be something that you swap in to move out. Now, the reason why we say Melmetal should be a ninja is because of superpower right here. Now, superpower is a very, very strong move. If I use it on something that's neutral to both Rock Slide and superpower, let's say like Suicune, right? Whoopsie, not Sudowoodo. Suicune. You notice that Rock Slide, though it is a solid move, only does 51 damage, while for less energy, superpower is going to do 54 damage. So superpower is a really strong move, but it does have one major drawback. The drawback to superpower is that whenever you use it, you'll drop your attack and defense by 1 stage. That means you lose 25% of your defenses and 25% of your damage when you use the superpower. Now, this is important because when you guys are going to use your Melmetal, with these 2 moves combined, you can hit your opponent and swap out if it's in the lead or if you're planning to ninja in and out. This is why we call it a ninja archetype. Now, if you look, for example, let's say Giratina, right? We know that Giratina should beat the Melmetal in the one shield situation. But if we look at this with no shields, whoops, two shields, no shields, right? We lose, but it takes a while before the Shadow Sneaks start adding up. Now, what that means is if you're using Melmetal and you think he might have use later, if this is the lead matchup where it's a Melmetal versus Giratina Altered, you can just farm up energy, tank a Shadow Sneak, farm up a little bit more, and then later switch out. You just switch out, and bam, you'll have two superpowers ready for your opponent. You tank the energy from the Shadow Sneak right here. And now, like, if you switch out right here at this moment, you will have 6 to 7 Thunder Shocks in. And that means you'll be 2 Thunder Shocks away from 2 superpowers. Your Melmetal will be super loaded. It has a good enough amount of HP left over. And now this Giratina altered, it has no energy, and you can try to win your way through. If you want to, you could throw a Rock Slide before you leave, and you could tank 2 Shadow Sneaks and be okay with gaining more energy before you have to run out. But you have to figure that out for each matchup. The thing that makes Melmetal scary is that you can just throw a move, leave, and still have loaded energy. And there are many times where Melmetal with like super low HP can still kill a Pokemon because it's just come in and out of the fight multiple times. Just out of personal use, I've been able to get Melmetal into a fight and use 6 superpowers in one match to win. And getting 6 superpowers, that is 27 Thunder Shocks, and I somehow still pulled it all off, and the Melmetal is still doing work. So as long as you guys know how to weave with your Melmetal, Melmetal comes very, very strong. Because even matchups that it loses, like one of my personal favorite matchups that it loses is against Giratina Origin as a lead, because you can tank a Shadow Ball pretty fine. Like look at that, you're still at um not at red HP yet. You're still at 86. But if you take a Shadow Ball, right, and then you swap out and something that can be a Giratina Origin or outpace it, then you can make the Giratina Origin just straight die like that. And Melmetal in the back with loaded energy is a threat to a team. Now, with that said, Melmetal, I don't think he works super well. Even though they say he works well as a switch, he can work well as a switch. But the problem is if he is going to stay in, if he needs superpower to kill the opponent, then after he gets his kill off, he's a sitting duck. Now, that actually sometimes is a positive effect, though sometimes it's a negative effect. And the reason why Melmetal can work as a switch is because let's say you kill an opponent, but you're really low on HP, but you had superpower to bring it down. Because your defenses are lowered, they will not be able to farm as much energy as they kill you. So superpower is both detrimental, but also sometimes a positive because if they farm you down faster, they get less energy. And so sometimes throwing superpower even on Giratina could be the right play. It's very situational, but Melmetal Melmetal's a pretty solid all-rounder. It's pretty squishy. And the thing is for its matchups, it can be some major threats to the meta. Dialga is one of the scariest spawns in all of Master League. Other than Garchomp, no dragon beats Dialga in a one-on-one. Dragonite is also a very, very scary dragon inside the Master League. Except for Dragon Breath, Giratina, and Dialga, Dragonite wins the Dragon on Dragon matchups. Togekiss, as you guys know, is the best charmer for Master League, and Melmetal deals with that handily. Melmetal actually wins the matchup against Dragonite and Togekiss so well that if you're willing to use your shields on the Melmetal, you can kill both Dragonite and Togekiss with just Melmetal by himself. So Melmetal, very, very strong, very, very scary mon. Okay, now because its primary role is going to be a lead, when you guys are looking for replacements for Melmetal, generally you want to look at the leads. Now, the best replacement, in my opinion, for Melmetal is probably going to be someone like Groudon. And the reason why Groudon is a good substitution is because Groudon wins some of the matchups that Melmetal wins. Okay, Groudon has the ability to bait with Fire Punch. Groudon has the ability to beat other steals with its fire and ground moves. And also, it does well against mostly the steel typing, and it's a big threat that's bulky and can hit hard. Now, the problem with Groudon, though, is that the Earthquake it needs to kill things with costs a lot of energy, unlike Groudon, unlike Melmetal, and it cannot beat Togekiss and Dragonite, so that's where it does kind of struggle. But as far as Melmetal goes, other steel typings you can use if you want to have a steel in your team that does a lot of work. Dialga is always nice, obviously, one of the scariest ones in the game. Metagross sometimes can fill your steel slot as well. So substitutions for Melmetal generally comes down to, do you have someone that is a steel type? Do you have a someone that can beat steel types? And do you have someone that can lead? So steel, Groudon, and leads. So those are my opinion on things that can replace the Melmetal. Um, Melmetal is really unique though because of how it can uniquely be a ninja that comes in and out. And right here, let's look at our matchups. So we talked about our matchups already, right? Now notice that we do have some losses, right? And the things that we do have to worry about a lot of times are these ground types, like Groudon and Garchomp. Swampert also as well. And they have, and even Rhyperior. But the cool thing about Rhyperior's matchup is that it is super power dependent. Um, if they don't bait, right? Let's say they don't they use their, well, we have to shield their damage, but their damage from Surf is only like 66. It's not too bad. The main thing that kills us is the Mud Slap. If we have energy loaded beforehand and we could throw two superpowers on the Rhyperior, we could threaten its life, especially if it doesn't have shields. So the thing about Rhyperior is the main thing you have to worry about is not these charge moves, but the fact that Mud Slap hits super hard. Um, the thing about Melmetal is because it can go in and out so easily, and because it hits so fast, like even on matchups that it loses, it can still do pretty well. On the other hand, the matchups that it shines in my opinion, is against things like the Togekiss right here. Because Togekiss, you can get to two rock slides before they get to a flamethrower. So that means if they're willing to commit shields, like you can shield their flamethrower, and if you shield their flamethrower, they just have no play against you because they can use a double shield, and you use one shield, and you still win against the Togekiss, right? The key matchup is against Togekiss, Dragonite because of that flying typing as well. Once again, two shields on Dragonite still loses to a Melmetal with one shield. So that's the reason why Melmetal is so powerful. He gets energy very quickly. He's able to throw the attacks very, very, very fast, and they hurt, especially if they're super effective against you. So that right there is the reason why we have to be very careful and why Melmetal is good. So the matchups for Melmetal that work out for it, it is one of the best answers to Dialga. Granted, it can still hurt you. It's a good answer to Dragonite, and it's a good answer to Togekiss. Now, actually, I'm just gonna put the names together because I think that's taking up too much space. Now, the counters to the Melmetal, as we said before, are just things that he cannot hit super effective and things that are ground types. So counters that we have that we saw, the ground boys, the ghost types, and some of the dragons just hit really hard, like Zekrom. Zekrom hits really hard, right? If you guys look at the numbers here, just because of that wild charge. Granted, the wild charge from Zekrom will also be debuffed. Now, when I said that the archetype is Ninja, I feel like almost any mon that has the ability to jump out of a fight after it throws a move is essentially a ninja. So, like, you could argue that Zekrom could be a ninja due to the wild charge debuffing it, and then later you want to swap it out after using the big moves, which is true. But what makes Melmetal, in my opinion, the best ninja in the Master League is that it is the fastest one. Zekrom takes a long time to get to the first wild charge, right? Like look, like it takes a lot of dragon breaths. Each dragon breath only does 3. It needs 45, so it needs to do 15 dragon breaths before it can wild charge, and that's a lot of time you have to waste. While inside the same time frame, you guys can get to like almost 2 superpowers and stuff. So that's the reason why um, Melmetal, I think it's a better ninja because it can go in and out. It hits really fast and it does its work well. Okay, so Melmetal is a very versatile Pokemon. You can use it as a lead, you can use it as a switch, you can use it in almost any role. Um, the main thing though is that it does take up your steel slot, so you don't want to be too weak to steel types, to things that hurt steel types like fire and ground and fighting, right? But Melmetal is one of the fastest things in the Master League. It can take a hit before it goes. It can do work even when it's super low in HP due to how fast its charge moves go. And the matchups it has key matchups against big things in the meta. Togekiss, real big in the meta, really does well against against other dragons. Dragonite and Dialga also do well against the dragons. Things that usually beat dragons, Melmetal kind of deals with. So if you need something to protect your dragons or hurt the dragons, Melmetal is a pretty good option since it resists dragon-based moves with its steel typing, and can usually hit them really hard with just rock slides or superpowers or whatever it needs to do to win. So when you guys are using Melmetal, understand that for most mons, Melmetal can absorb a singular hit. Like you could take one wild charge, if it dragon breaths to it and wild charge, you'll be left really low. But you can take the hit, you can load up energy, and you can, either beta shield or just run out and try to come back in later when they have no shields to blow them up with a double superpower or multiple rock slides. Okay, so that's the main things about Melmetal. So let's do a quick overview before we finish here. One, archetype of Melmetal is a ninja. It gains energy very fast, it hits really hard, and it runs away. The moves that you're going to use is Thundershock, Rock Slide, and Superpower because they are very fast moves and they hit relatively hard. The role for Melmetal, a lot of times you can see Melmetal in the lead, but it still does well as a swap and in other positions. And it's not a particularly great safe swap because you will be not walled, but you will be killed by certain things. So watch out for that. If you want to substitute Melmetals, you want to have good leads or you want to have a good steel type. For matchups for Melmetal, the main things you want to consider is that Melmetals beat things that take out dragons. So if you want to support your dragons, you get that Melmetal. And counters to Melmetal obviously include the big ground types, the big ghost types, and even like Kyogre and like big neutral hitting moves can wear Melmetal down. And those are the main things that we have to consider. Now, with that all said, I know you guys have some other classes to attend. So with that, I hope to see you all next time. Class is dismissed.